Hi guys, welcome to the third episode of All Things Compounding. आज के वीडियो में we are hosting Mr. Anupam Rungta. Not only is he an expert in stock markets and mutual funds, इसके साथ ही साथ he is a great entrepreneur जिन्होंने अपना एक बहुत ही अच्छा पर्सनल ब्रांड बना लिया है. His website anupamrungta.com is where he offers multiple courses to his clients and educates a lot of people. इसके साथ ही साथ he also offers a service called Follow My Portfolio. In today's video, हमने सबसे पहले तो प्राइमरीली बात की हाउ कैन यू बिल्ड अ पर्सनल ब्रांड व्हेन इट कम्स टू इन्वेस्टमेंट मैनेजमेंट इंडस्ट्री. I myself am looking forward to become an entrepreneur in this field, so I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And for all those people in my audience जो खुद भी इसी पाथ पर चलना चाहते हैं, this is genuinely a treat for you. इसके बाद हम म्यूचुअल फंड मास्टर क्लास में एंटर करते हैं जहाँ पे सर ऐसी ऐसी चीज़ों के बारे में बताते हैं जो मुझे भी नहीं पता थी. So I thoroughly not only enjoyed it but learned immensely from this conversation with him, and I hope you too as well. Thank you, Anupam sir, for being here on our third episode of All Things Compounding.
Thank you, Kashish, for inviting me.
So, you're one of few people on LinkedIn and generally on social media जिनको मैं बहुत closely follow करता हूँ. Not because I have a lot of respect for what work do you do, but also because you have a very fascinating career trajectory and the way that you've built a brand around yourself when it comes in the investment industry. So kudos to that. So what I want to communicate to my audience here is कि first half में we'll be discussing about how Anupam Rungta sir sort of built a brand for himself on LinkedIn, and then वहाँ से he is being able to funnel clients for his venture, which is insanely awesome. And उसके बाद we'll be moving on to the mutual fund masterclass. So if you want to just skip to that, don't worry, मैं नीचे chapters का link डाल दूंगा, you can directly skip to that. But all those people like me जो खुद भी अपने early age में हैं and they want to build a career, a venture in investment management industry, this is going to be perfect section for you. To start off, sir, I was reading about yourself and मैंने आपके career trajectory में जाके देखा, I had read कि आपके पेरेंट्स, आपके फादर भी एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स पढ़ते थे, which means कि वो भी खुद एक इन्वेस्टर थे. Then why is it that you did your engineering degree rather than going for a commerce thing?
See, I'm from 90s in terms of my the prime schooling years, and I'll tell you what the atmosphere that time was. So first of all, the kind of awareness I see now in the today generation in terms of kya subject lena hai, what to study, what not to study. So that was not really there, and I was always an average student. What happens in for every student is 10th board mein if you get good marks, which happened with me, and 10th board is simpler than other class. So you tend to think that you are good in studies and you take science. Very simple concept that you are good in studies, take science. You're not good in studies, take commerce. That was the only two straightforward options, right? So I took science. Now I took science, so I did engineering naturally, right? So I had no clue about what career to choose, and if my father is doing something, can I choose that as a career? Because I had no clue about it in terms of where is my interest area. So that's how it happened. It just went in a flow. Once I went to engineering, then I realized कि ये क्या कर लिया. I mean, this was not my cup of tea. So and then I moved back to finance field after engineering.
And as I read कि उसके बिल्कुल बाद आपने अपनी CFA की preparation शुरू कर दी थी, right?
Right.
So how was the shift like from being आपने high school भी अपना computer I mean PCM किया होगा, then आपने 4 साल की engineering की degree की, अचानक से finance में shift होना, that too one of the toughest finance curriculums out there. How was the shift?
See, it was not about what I'm going to do in terms of tough or easy. The idea, as I said, when I went into engineering, I realized that this was a mistake. So, and it was not easy for me to go through that 4 years of journey, especially from third year onwards. I was just waiting for it to get over. So, I mean, those last 2 years were not very easy. So the moment I got out, it was like coming out of jail. And I was like, okay, fine, now let me do what I really want to do. And not that I was still clear about what exactly I want to pursue in finance, because finance is a very, very broad domain. And again, this was in 2006. So the awareness in terms of internet and mentors and people guiding was not really there compared to what we see today. So I just shifted towards finance. I tried a lot of things. I did a few ventures also. I was not very clear कि finance ही करना है, but I was clear कि engineering के अलावा कुछ करना है. I don't want to do engineering or anything to do with computer science or IT or tech. So I was just exploring myself in those, my 20s. That's what I did.
So moving on what you said already कि आपने इससे पहले भी venture किया. Anupamroongta.com is not the first venture that you had. 6 to 7 के बीच में you did your own personal venture and then eventually you moved into a more corporate job. So I wanted to
Right.
understand what was the first venture like? What did you do back then? तब क्या ऐसी issues आए कि you decided कि नहीं मेरे को corporate में जाना है and आपका corporate career भी is equally successful wherein you've worked with some insanely awesome companies. So I just want to understand what was that 1 year like between 2006 to 7 जब आपने personal किया and what made you change?
See, again, as moving from engineering to finance, as I said, it was a very broad domain. So I did some internships here and there. I know I used to sit with my dad in office, used to go to meetings with him, used to go to meetings with people my dad connected me to. So in terms of understanding what they are doing and how they are doing within the finance industry and outside finance industry also. So that 1 year was the exploration phase. And my friends who were from engineering, they were getting into different companies, different jobs, non-tech jobs. And that was happy news for me that that they can get the job in the finance field. So even I can get the job. And since I was not clear in that 1 year, I was just doing everything I could get my hands on. I thought let's take some corporate exposure because once I get into a business, I cannot go back. I can always come back from job to business, but going from business to job is rare. I mean, it's not easy from psychological point of view. That's what at least I could figure out. So yeah, so that's what made me go to the go to Gurgaon. Gurgaon is where I did my 3.5 years of corporate stint, and that was I think one of the apart after engineering, that was again a very sharp learning curve in terms of life skills, not technical skills, but life skills के point of view से I learned a lot in those 3.5 years, 3 through 4 years.
So, sir, after this, आपने 3 to 4 years, as you say, कि you've learned a lot of life skills. उसके बाद you even moved into a more technical roles as well, जहाँ पे आपने like proper आप एक stock market expert बनने के एक phase में आ गए थे. And then finally in 2019, you received your SEBI research analyst का this thing certificate, and you also started your Anupam Rungta brand.
Right.
So was it all planned कि हाँ 2019 से I've learned a lot. Soft skill भी आ गए हैं. Now it's time to go berserk on what I love. And so I just want to understand that transition.
See, I think my entire 20s till mid 30s has been all roller coaster ride. I have been experimenting everything here and there. So nothing was planned. I was just going with the flow. What is working, what is not working. I did a couple of ventures, did not succeed. Ventures outside finance field. I got into real estate marketing. I took some franchisee as well. And I mean, the kind of stuff we started a discount card, I remember, in Jaipur. So we did a lot of stuff here and there apart, nothing to do with finance, nothing to do with engineering. We did jo bhi haath lage karo. So I think that also helped me in terms of gaining different perspectives and experiences, and that way of approaching people, way to approach people. And I learned mindset. I learned how people behave. That's what I was subconsciously learning in all this, in all these years. 2019, as you're mentioning, I mean, again, it was just another chapter. It was not planned that let's take the SEBI license and let's start the company in my own name instead of having a company and all those things. So whatever past experience I had, and I would say rather from 2020, I have started planning in the sense that now I want to do this, now I want to do that, because now I can see that this particular path which I have taken, I can really contribute and add a lot of value. So now the planning has actually started just last year, not before that. Before that, it was all like going with flow. That's how it has been. So yeah,
And I
nothing
think
planned.
God specifically ऐसे ही path बनाता है. And like you've been fortunate enough कि अब you are at a phase wherein everything is going as per plan, and I hope things go as well. Now talking about your own anupamroongta.com, right? So I want to understand कि आप वहाँ पे क्या क्या services देते हैं. The reason I want to understand is because I want to know कि how can we as let's say investors जो full time ये करना चाहते हैं, how can we monetize upon our skills, and what are different ways through which we can channelize our knowledge and our vigor to learn about and teach about markets to other people. So what sort of services that you offer, and how has that eventually evolved over, let's say, past 1 year?
So, my flagship product, I would call it's called Follow My Portfolio, wherein I share the details of my own stocks portfolio. And as an investor, you can go and subscribe, and you get the details in form of the list of the stocks and the proportion in which I am investing into. And whenever there's a change, you will get intimated through email. So that's the core product which I started. That's the core which what I do in terms of research. That's what I am. I'm a research analyst, and that's what I do. Now, 2020 is when I started with courses. Now, that was like a new venture within my this anupamroongta.com brand, and that education thing was taken pretty well. I didn't really, because I was doing investor awareness programs for a very long time in corporates and schools and colleges and doctors and all those. So I think that was again building up and adding up, and that program went well. And then I thought that this is the way forward. And so right now in the education side, we have two programs. One is mutual fund program, wherein we teach people how to create a equity mutual fund portfolio, how to monitor, when to sell, how many schemes. So basically you learn everything in and out in that 3-day program. And the other is a stock market program. That's a 2 months program. That's a weekly classes. And then there you learn how to pick stocks, what to do, what not to do. We focus a lot on temperament and mindset in that program. And yeah, so these are the two the programs we have right now. And we are in the process of building a couple of more programs, which will, I think, come by next year, March to April, most likely. So that one is on debt mutual fund, one is on financial planning. Okay. So yeah, broadly, that's what we. So mutual fund, stock market, debt mutual fund, and financial planning. I think this will kind of complete the requirement of an individual in terms of starting to invest, how to do financial planning first, and how much to invest where and all that. So I think it will kind of everything will be there in under one roof.
So you're building a one-stop solution for anybody out there जिनको finance related कुछ भी जानना है, like anything, they can come to Anupam Roongta and just learn about it. That's awesome. Right. I want to now understand कि अभी when you're operating, what are your operations like? Like, do you have a team? And like, if you have a team, how big is it? How do you sort of carry out operations? Also, what has your primary strategy, I'd say, been engaging with clients? Because I see that you also have a WhatsApp broadcast list जहाँ पे आप वो करते हो. Then you have a thing on LinkedIn as well. I'm assuming वहाँ से भी आप काफी ज़्यादा traffic generate करते हो for your site and for your programs, right? So I just want to understand that. How did you approach it, and how's it going?
Sorry, I missed your first question. First question is related to how did I
operations, your operations ki how do you operate, and
operations,
do you have a team?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right, got it. So when it comes to team, I don't have any full-time employee. I have freelancers, someone taking care of website, a couple of people taking care of content, one person taking care of designing. Fortunately, my wife knows everything into digital marketing, so she is the one who takes care of that. So वहाँ पे कुछ पैसे बच जाते हैं. So it broadly covers everything what we need. But yes, eventually as we are growing and we need a couple of more people. So we are in the process of figuring out whom to hire, how to hire, and all that. But yeah, right now my team there is no full-time employee, and the reason we don't have that is, one, in my research side, I don't have a one-to-one solution. I don't like I will not say, Kashish, these are the 10 stocks for you. Ajay, these are the 5 stocks for you. Manish, these are stocks. So it's a follow my portfolio. So I'm not doing any customized advisory. So I don't need a team to do any research there. Other places where I'm delivering the program, I am the one who will deliver. I can't ask anyone else to deliver the program, right? I am the one who will create the content, because I have to deliver that. And that's a one-time creation, right? So apart from this, everything else is back-end operations, right? So pretty much more or less my wife takes care of all the website and digital marketing and content. And I mean, I do get involved. I don't really have a choice there, but it's quite structured so far, I would say. So I don't really have to spend much time in non-productive work. I can focus on my research and I can focus on delivery.
And I think
So
that is
yeah,
super important, because when I was also trying to sort कि मेरे को अपना business model कैसा बनाना है, I started कि सब कुछ मेरे को ही करना पड़ेगा, because I want perfection and the only guy I know who's good at it is me. That was also
yeah,
sort of an egoistic thing. And also, because we really love what we're doing, we don't want to compromise, and we feel that the other
right.
will not do justice to what we are doing. But I don't think that's scalable. मेरे को बहुत मुंह की खानी पड़ी, but you've sort of managed to do it well. You have your wife supporting you and also freelancers, and now you're also looking to, let's say, hire a couple people. That's awesome.
Right.
The second part of the question was you reaching out to clients. So it is via
Right.
WhatsApp and LinkedIn. So walk me through what's happening there.
So again, since the digital marketing is taken care by my wife, so anything related to that she is doing. But I already had a client base. I mean, I've been there in the industry for last 10 years and 12 years, and I know people. I mean, people know me in sense of whatever social media connection and otherwise also. So there was some momentum at the beginning when we started, of course. And apart from that, we also, I mean, my wife knew that content is the king if you want to really scale up in the digital marketing space. So we started building content on LinkedIn. We started with only one channel. We said there's no point being jack of all the social media channels. Just focus on one. But yeah, what happens is with the content which we develop or which we get from our content writers, we can use that content for all the channels we have, or maybe 2 3 4 channels. WhatsApp you're talking about, we have discontinued with WhatsApp. We have made it Telegram now. So that we are not posting on WhatsApp anymore. I mean, we have very few people, in my personal number where the WhatsApp broadcast goes, but we had it on the website. Now it is Telegram. So yeah, so pretty much content we have. LinkedIn is as you rightly pointed out, is the core of our focus as of now, and we do plan to start with YouTube channel. I'm just being reluctant because once you start, you can't really stop. As you also pointed out, earlier, that it's very easy to get lazy and get out of that zone, and again you have to put the same effort again, and that's what is stopping me कि वो start कर दिया तो रोक नहीं सकते.
Apps.
So that's one thing I'm next target which I have. So yeah, I think that's working well for us so far, whatever we are
So,
doing.
in case you do need any help on YouTube, and I'll be more than happy to help you, like anytime.
More
Uh,
awesome,
on the
sure.
LinkedIn side, I researched and I realized that you hired one of LinkedIn influencers for your personal branding, right? So I wanted to
Yeah.
understand कि उन्होंने आपको ऐसा क्या सिखाया, because I think he definitely would have helped you get a lot of reach over LinkedIn. So what are few key points जो उनकी conversation आपके बीच में जो भी like discussions हुई, उससे आप मुझे सार बता सकते हो कि वो 2 3 points जो मैं खुद आज से अप्लाई करना शुरू करूँ, anybody for that matter जो अप्लाई करना शुरू कर सकता है if they're building a brand on LinkedIn, or not just LinkedIn, it can be platform agnostic, किसी भी platform पे कर रहे हैं. Just what's the mindset and few strategies to apply?
See, I mean, the person you're talking about, he's not guiding me or educating me. He's giving me the service in terms of content writing, right? Now, what one thing I was clear that content, as I said, the content is very important and it has to be consistent, right? And again, given my bandwidth and the kind of work I need to put in, I was clear that being consistent would not be possible without delegating this job. So what Yugansh brought in was one, consistency. So I have a database of content ready for next few days, and obviously I have to review that. I have to make changes wherever necessary. Second thing, what is working in the content now, which was not working earlier when I was doing it myself, is one. It is most of the content is in the story format, so the public can relate to that, right? And there is it should not be preachy. I mean, being an advisor, I have this tendency to, and being also in the education space now, if I write something, I'll start, teaching people from for line one. So it should be in a format that someone is reading, they're engaging, and they get the message, but they don't feel that someone is teaching or preaching them something, right? So that's one thing. One other thing which worked. Third, we have experimented a lot. So I mean, I've been always okay with, trying out new things. It works fine. It doesn't work fine. Trying out different things means in terms of, having a carousel, having a meme, maybe having putting some video, trying out different times, morning, evening, night, maybe doing 2 posts a day, maybe doing, not doing posts on certain days. So we have tried everything. Certain things work, certain things did not work. Giving out free ebooks, for example. So there are different things we tried. So we know what, now we know that these things are working. So let's focus on that. Some things are not working. So let's, keep them aside. So there is no, and having said that, since you're active on LinkedIn, you must have noticed that there are people who do very different kind of stuff. There is no one formula for any social media channel, I believe, though, yeah, broad structure can be same, but there are different people doing different kind of stuff and they're doing well. So, I mean, you have to, find out what works for you. But yeah, consistency is something which will remain constant across the channels. That's what I believe.
Yeah. This is very enlightening, I'd say. Now I'd stop the personal brand and Anupam Rungta wala section, and now we'll
Sure.
morph into the mutual fund masterclass, the main reason
Sure.
we all are here. So, sir, मुझे सबसे पहले तो यही समझना है कि there are a lot of players in the mutual fund industry. Like there are AMCs, then there's a CAMS जो RTA है, then Grow and Zerodha Coin जो app है जिसके through हम खरीदते हैं, right? So these are all players out there and हम investors, and then there are some mutual fund distributors as well. So
Right.
a lot of these players, I want to understand ki how do they interact within the whole mutual fund ecosystem? Because before we get into mutual fund investing, we're going to have to start from scratch. तो आप मुझे basically 1-2 मिनट में समझा दो कि how do they interact and where do I as an investor lie in this whole ecosystem?
Well, I would say quite a broad question, but I'll try to concise it into 1 to 2 minutes. See, as an investor, number one, I have two choices. Now, first choice is I do everything myself. I say that I know how to choose a mutual fund scheme. I know how to operate online, all those channels or apps or whatever it is, and I'll do everything myself. And the second simple option is you hire an advisor or agent or whatever you call that person, right? Now, let's say we go with the second one, which is, I think, more appropriate for someone who is getting into mutual fund industry or equity market for the first time. So it's always good to have some guidance in terms of getting the right mutual fund schemes and also the back end stuff. So within advisors now also, there are like 3, 4, 5 different kinds of advisors, thanks to SEBI. I mean, really thanks to SEBI, because now as an investor, I have a choice. So as you said, mutual fund distributor, that's the most common license. You go and ask people about mutual fund advisors. 99% case, that person will be a MFD, will have a MFD license. So you can go through them. They will manage your accounts. They will, give you advice as well. And whatever back end of office work they will do. The other license is SEBI RIA, Registered Investment Advisor. The difference here is the way they charge you the fees. So in case of MFD, they will not charge you anything. They will get the commission from the mutual fund company. In case of RIA, they will charge you directly, and the mutual fund company will charge you less in a direct plan, direct mutual fund scheme. Why? Because they are not giving any commission to this guy, this
Yes.
RIA guy, right? So in a way, you save some money there in the scheme, but you pay some money to this guy.
Okay.
Then there are like people who have got license like me, but I am not into mutual fund advisory as such. I am only into the mutual fund program. So we can only charge a fixed fee. So these are all SEBI regulations. Like I can as an RA research analyst, I can only charge a fixed fee if I'm doing this advisory service. And it's like a doctor's fees. You pay a fixed fee, whatever your portfolio is, doesn't matter, right? And then you have robo advisory, Scriptbox, if you have heard the name, Funds India. So you go online, you create your portfolio, you fill up your form, and they will advise you what schemes you should invest in. So as an individual, I have these choices in terms of getting service from the service providers. The other is direct platforms, as you mentioned, Kuvera, Grow, Paytm Money. So I know everything myself. I can directly go there, create my profile, and start investing. Right now, one thing I want to mention here: a lot of people are concerned that what if these websites close down tomorrow? Paytm close down tomorrow. Paytm Money or Kuvera, Grow. Please understand, your money is not with them. These are just dashboards. Your money is with the AMC, with the mutual fund company. So I'm investing in Axis Mutual Fund scheme. And through, let's say, Grow. So money is not with Grow. Grow is just a dashboard. It's just a platform, right? My money is with the Axis Mutual Fund. So if Grow says I'm closing my business today, my money is as safe as it always was, right? So yeah, so this is broadly what it is. Now you're talking about all those RTAs and
Yes.
CAMS and Carvi. So if you've heard of NSDL and CDSL in Demat account, so where your shares are stored in electronic form. So these are the counterparts in mutual fund industry.
Okay.
These are the service providers for all the mutual fund companies. So all your, electronic, all the backend of work which happens in terms of SIP and KYC and storing your units and all, everything happens at this. So for an investor point of view, I don't really need to worry about that, because that will not make a difference to my returns and my research, right? So that's, think of whatever is happening in the back end, that's not important for me. The front end is, do I need a service from an advisor, or do I need to go directly to the platforms and do it on my own? So that's what is important for the investor.
Okay. The next question being कि there are a lot of I'd say financial products which are similar to mutual fund. जैसे mutual fund हो गए, index fund हो गए, ETFs हो गए, fund of fund हो गए. So just can you differentiate between all four: ETF, fund of fund, mutual fund, and index fund? How do they differ from each other?
See, these are like, I would say, broadly types of mutual funds, at least the two of them. So index fund is a kind of a mutual fund. So there are broadly two kinds of mutual funds when it comes to management of money. One is passive investing, one is active investing. Passive investing is, let's say there is an index called Sensex or Nifty. So HDFC mutual fund comes with a scheme which says HDFC Sensex plan. Right. It means this particular scheme will invest in the same 30 companies which the Sensex is holding. And whenever there is a change in the Sensex stocks, this scheme will also copy paste the same. It's like a copy paste. कुछ नहीं करना है. This fund manager है, बस वो नाम के लिए है. It doesn't matter who the fund manager is, because he's supposed to copy paste, right? So that's called an index fund, because you're copying an index, right? The other is an actively managed scheme, where is the fund manager says, I will do my research, and out of 30 stocks, I'll pick maybe 20, 22, 23, which are better stocks, and I'll try to give you more returns. So that's called active schemes, right? Now the next thing you asked was ETF. ETF is nothing but index fund converted into a stock, and it can trade on the stock market. So exchange traded fund, ETF, right? So index fund converted into a stock, and you can now buy it only from your Demat account, like any other stock. But the composition is same. So the returns of index fund and the same counterpart ETF will be same, right? So that's ETF and index fund. Fund of funds, again, as the name suggests, it is fund of funds. So in a mutual fund, what typically happens is the fund manager invests in other stocks, right? That's how the mutual fund scheme is formed. You are the fund manager investing in stocks. In fund of fund, the fund manager is investing in other mutual fund schemes.
Okay.
So basically, you get a portfolio of mutual fund schemes. You get a complete portfolio in a fund of fund scheme. Yeah. But I typically, in my programs, I tell people to maintain social distance from a fund of funds. Because you end up paying the charges twice. If you notice, the mutual fund scheme you're investing into, they are charging something. It's called expense ratio, right? And the fund of funds you are investing through, that fund of fund is also a mutual fund scheme, which is again charging you expense ratio. So you're paying double the charges. Plus, not many people are aware that taxation of fund of funds is way more disadvantageous compared to pure equity mutual fund schemes. So you pay much more tax in a fund of fund compared to a equity mutual fund. So one, you are paying double the charges. Second, you are paying more taxes. And then you look at the returns, it will give you the answer, all the fund of fund schemes. So it is like, I don't know why it even exists, to be very frank. It should not be there.
In case a retail investor wants to have a portfolio, जो fund of fund offer करते हैं, they can just directly reach out to maybe a mutual fund distributor or an advisor of sorts,
right,
जो आपके लिए काम कर दे, जिसको आप सिर्फ एक fixed % दोगे, but then again he'll help you not only be tax efficient but also expenses काफी कम हो जाएंगे, which directly results impacts your overall return when compounded over long periods of time. And now we'll go a bit more deeper and ask you कि एक equity mutual fund, just sticking to equity mutual fund, हम जब उसको like when we're trying to find one, what are key, I'd say, metrics we look out for? And in addition to it, do I look at price performance at all? Because it's always said, हम सबने सुना है कि past performance is not an indication of future performance as well. But then again, I feel कि if a fund has performed well over past 5 to 7 years, it certainly means कि कुछ तो बात होगी that it has performed, let's say, the market. So I think both of these arguments are sort of counterintuitive. So how do I navigate through this sort of dilemma that I have? And also, what are other key metrics that I look out for?
So I'll talk about the past performance first. As you rightly mentioned, if the fund has performed in last 5 years, it means it has, the fund manager has got some skills or knowledge. Now, this statement that past performance is not a guarantee of future, it is perfectly right. There's nothing wrong in this statement. But the investors take it in a negative way that you should not look at past performance. No, the idea of saying this statement does not mean you should not look at past performance. The idea is you should not just look at past performance, right?
Okay.
When you're looking at a mutual fund scheme, look at 7-8 parameters, whatever you're supposed to look at. But what typically investors do is they just focus on last 1 year, 3 year, 5 year return. They look at the top 2-3 schemes. They say, okay, these are good schemes. Let me invest in them. So to discourage investors from doing this kind of activity, which majority of investors do, that's why this kind of statement has been quoted by various experts and fund houses, that past performance is not a guarantee of future, right? That does not mean past performance is irrelevant or insignificant, right? So it is significant. You have to look at it, but it is one of the things to look at, not the only thing, right? Now, other parameters you're talking about, there's something called turnover ratio. I just point out 4-5 pointers. Turnover ratio is what? How much churning is happening in the fund. Okay. Let's say turnover ratio is 60%. It means in last 1 year, fund manager has sold 60% worth of stocks in the portfolio and bought something new. Okay. That's called churning. Turnover ratio. Turnover kitta hua, right? Okay. Now, lower the better. Why? Because I don't want my fund manager to keep on churning. I want him to do proper research and stick to the stocks for long, right? Okay. So lower the better. Second is expense ratio. Nothing but annualized charges. Again, lower the better. I would want to pay as less as possible. But again, just looking at turnover ratio being low does not make a scheme good. Just looking at expense ratio being low does not make a scheme good. You have to look at all the parameters holistically and then take your call. There is no single parameter which is so strong that you can reject or select a scheme. Okay. Whether it is a turnover ratio, expense ratio, or past performance, right? Next, size of the fund. Okay. Now, not many people focus on that. So what happens is, naturally, let's say a scheme is performing well. What will happen? The scheme size will go up because everyone wants to invest in that. And plus they are performing well means the size of the scheme portfolio is anyway going up, right? Beyond a point, that size becomes a disadvantageous position for the fund, because now the fund manager is not able to find good quality stocks to invest that fresh money which they're getting, right? So they, unfortunately, they don't have any choice but to go to B or C category stocks and start investing in them. So what performed in the past now starts going down. And that's again the same thing comes. Past performance is not a guarantee of future, because just because they have performed in the past, it might become, a problem for them. This performance itself might become a problem for them. And then now they would not be able to perform because the fund size is so huge. So I also mentioned the range of fund size you should look at in various categories when I talk to my participants in the program. Then another thing to look at is fund manager investment. Again, not many people know about it. I am the fund manager of the scheme. How much am I investing? That's very important. How much are the board of directors of the scheme of the mutual fund investing in that scheme? How much are the other senior management investing in that scheme? Now, why is it important? Because see, that this is their full-time job. If they are not investing their own money, I would be definitely a little uncomfortable. There is no skin in the game. It's like you go to a cafeteria and you get to know the owner never eats there. Like there's something fishy. Yeah, the owner is not eating there. Why should I go and eat? So, not that he has to eat every day, but he should at least be there sometimes. So there is something called scheme information document where you get this data. Okay. And this is disclosed twice a year by the fund house. You just go type the name of your scheme on Google along with scheme information document. You will get the link and you can go and check there in the table how much investment is your fund manager doing and the other key people doing put together. And thankfully, SEBI has come up with the law this year, April 2021. 20% of fund manager's salary and other key people's salary will go into the scheme in which they're investing into. So basically, instead of getting 100 rupees in their bank account as salary, they will get only 80 rupees. Remaining 20 rupees will come in the form of mutual fund units. Right? And to avoid that they end up selling that scheme too soon, they have put a 3-year lock-in.
Okay.
Till 3 years, they cannot withdraw that money. So now they will truly have skin in the game. Now it will pinch them also if the performance is not good, which was not happening till now, right? So this is one very important criteria, how much the fund manager is investing his money. And the another related to the same thing is, since when is the fund manager serving that scheme?
Okay.
Every 2 year, 3 year, if my fund manager is changing, that's also a concern, right? I want the fund manager to be there for as long as possible. So I look at how, since when do we have this fund manager in the scheme? At least I prefer at least 3 years should be there. The longer the better, but at least 3 years is, I want them to, have that time to perform and show their skill and knowledge. And the last one within the performance, one is you look at the past returns in terms of CAGR, trailing returns. The other is rolling returns.
Okay.
Rolling returns gives you a more stringent measure of consistency of the scheme. So these are the broad criteria. I would say that this, I think, makes it 8 parameters in total, which you can. And yeah, one more I missed: number of stocks. I say the lower the better, because if the number of stocks is, let's say, 50 in a scheme, another scheme has got 90. So the scheme which has got 90 stocks, they don't have, you will always have limited quality stocks in the market, right? You will not have 200, 500 good quality stocks. The scheme which has got 50 stocks, they still have got buffer to add more good quality stocks. Scheme which already has got 90 stocks, if they add more stocks, most likely they will be B and C category stocks. Yeah. So that's one more parameter.
And I think the whole process is very comprehensive, which is why I highly recommend ki go sign up for Sir's mutual fund program, because he does this full time for over 3 days. So you can also delve a bit deeper into such nuances of mutual fund investing and also retain this stuff, because I think 15 or let's say 10 minutes does not do justice to the type of learning it takes for you to choose a good mutual fund. On that front, I also wish to ask the AUM wala part, right? So I did my primary research as well, and मेरे को पता लगा that the darling mutual fund of all retail investors, Parag Parikh ka flagship program, right? That has primarily a lot of just retail investors. उसके अंदर institutional investments इतनी नहीं है, and probably that is the reason उनका AUM size इतना नहीं increase करता compared to let's say a Mirae asset जो काफी ज्यादा ऊपर गया over let's say past 3-4 years. So does this mean that it's actually good? Like I came to a conclusion that it's actually good for them, because not only have they been a consistent performer under, let's say, the Rajiv Thakkar's tenure, but also the fact that they do not have really large AUM just plays in favor of them compared to जो बाकी के mutual fund है, जहाँ पे अगर वो AUM के पीछे भागते हैं, then they compromise on the quality of stocks. So is it right for me to conclude this? And what's your opinion on this?
See, when you talk about the AUM or the size of the fund, there is a threshold on the lower side and the upper side, both the sides. So I don't remember if you can tell me the figure of what is the AUM approximately of the fund you're talking
between
about.
5 to 10,000 crores.
5,000 crores, yeah. So what I tell my investors is anything above 1,000 crores is good on the minimum side. So I would not look at a fund which is like 200, 300, 500, 700 crores.
Why?
They have just started. There are 2 reasons for that. Number one, the expense ratio will be high because there are certain costs which are fixed.
Achha.
Right, by any fund house. So if the fund size is small, but the expenses are almost fixed, so their charges will be in percentage terms high. The second reason, which I don't really have a proof of, but from the common sense is, let's say you or I are the fund manager of a scheme, right? And we have just started, and we want to be in that top league. We want to perform and show to the world and show to the investor that we are doing good. We tend to take aggressive bets because the fund size is small. होगा क्या, या तो R या par, right? So they're like, let's take those aggressive bets because we might do really well and we might just shine very soon. So the chances that fund manager will play around with the money of the investors is high when the fund size is small.
Okay.
Right? And when the fund size is decent enough, they have more responsibility and they're more answerable. So they will be like cautious, they will take their each step very carefully. That's what I want the fund manager to do. Right. So very low fund size is a problem. Very high is also a problem. Now coming to your question again, 5 to 10,000 crores, I believe they will fall in a. That's not a very small fund size. Number one, if you're comparing to the top, AUM mutual funds, maybe it will look small, but 5,000 plus crores plus fund size is like they're in the main league.
Okay.
So I don't think so. Their retail investors investing and institutional investors not investing is helping them generate returns that they would have done even if institutional investors were there. I think if you look at their turnover ratio, it's very low. So they are like true long-term players. They're like they really invest for long term, and I think that itself is enough to show that they are good at what they're doing because they're confident on what they're selecting. So yeah, maybe that is working in their favor now for now.
बिल्कुल, that certainly is working, which is why performance भी अच्छी रही है, and a lot of people trust them as well, especially people like us जो खुद अभी भी नए हैं and they just want to make good money through mutual funds. Sir, आपने 8 parameters define किए थे, and you also mentioned a document called Scheme Information SID, right? जो हर साल में 2 बार आती है. I want to know कि are there any other tools और other websites और other resources जहाँ पे मैं उन 8 parameters के बारे में जान सकता हूँ, और is everything that I want to know already there in a scheme information document and all I have to do is read it religiously and understand it?
No, not really. I mean, scheme information document is 100-200 pages. That's not worth reading that. So there are quite a few websites. It depends on which website you started using when you started learning. So it's about your comfort level. So I'm comfortable with, for example, valueresearchonline.com and advisorcoach.com. So these 2 websites gives me the data which I want. But why I'm taking 2 websites? Because there are some data point which is very readily and easily available on Value Research, and most of the data point I take it from Advisor Coach, and that pretty much gives me the answer. SID I'm using only to get that one data point, that is the investment amount. Rest I am not really reading that because, as I said, it comes twice in a year, so the data is not really updated. So if I'm reading a 5-month-old SID, that will not be updated data. But yeah, for that fund manager investment is decent enough in terms of getting that range. That is good enough for me to get. The rest of the data, updated data, is there on these websites. There is Morningstar. There are a lot of other websites are there. I mean, there is no dearth of websites.
Fine. Sir, अब म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री लाइक म्यूचुअल फंड सही है कैंपेन इतना फेमस हुआ, वी हैव लॉट ऑफ फाइनेंशियलाइजेशन हैपनिंग व्हिच इज गुड फॉर both mutual fund industry of India and for people who can generate wealth. But sir, इसी का एक I'd say dark side है कि बहुत ज्यादा exquisite schemes भी आने लग गई हैं. There's this thing called thematic funds, right? जैसे value fund, then sectoral fund, देन IIFL ने अपना नया फंड लॉन्च किया फिनटेक फंड, जहां पे वो सिर्फ फिनटेक स्टार्टअप्स में प्राइमरली लेट्स से प्राइवेट इक्विटी स्पेस में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे. देन IPO फंड बाय ईडलवाइस जो रिसेंटली लिस्टेड IPOs में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे. चाइनीज ओवरसीज फंड. सो सर ये बहुत ज्यादा ना एक्सक्विजिट साइड से फंड्स आ रहे हैं. डू दे रियली एड वैल्यू or not? Because I remember Radhika Gupta, who is CEO of Edelweiss, if I'm not wrong, she mentioned कि they really don't add a lot of value. जो पहले से म्यूचुअल फंड्स चले आ रहे हैं, they are enough, more than enough for investors to make decent money. But I want to know what's your view in this.
I'm glad you asked this question. So you have kind of answered it already. See, understand from the perspective of the person who is selling you anything. Mutual fund company, no matter which company it is, they're in the business of doing what? Selling schemes, right? And to sell schemes, performance will come whenever it will come. But marketing is one thing which comes on day one.
Okay.
Right? And they are good at it. They are supposed to be good at it, right? Now, let's say you go to a showroom, to buy a showpiece, right? There are 1,000 showpieces on display, right? But you buy 1, 2, or 3, whichever you need, right? So you might ask, and why are 1,000 pieces on display when I need only 2 or 3, right? There are 1,000 pieces on display because they know someone will buy this, someone will buy something else. So they want to sell. They just want to sell. They don't care about, whether this piece is looking good or not, and this is valuable or not. That's not the point. The point is there are different people, different opinions. When you have n number of different exclusive kind of schemes, you'll be like, everyone will buy something from me. Koi kuch le lega, koi kuch le lega, right? So all these schemes which are coming, that IPO scheme and all that, these are all, I call them fancy categories. It's like a fancy dress competition happening. And the one name which you took was thematic fund. That's the most ridiculous fund. I mean, even others, you're talking about IPO and fintech and all. Please understand again, one more thing I want to point out here. I always tell my investors, फंड मैनेजर के दुख को समझो, अंडरस्टैंड द पेन पॉइंट ऑफ फंड मैनेजर, बिकॉज ही और शी इज द वन हु विल मैनेज योर हार्ड अर्न मनी, राइट? Now, if you have a scheme which is binding you to invest only in IPO, new IPO stocks, or binding you to invest only in PSU stocks, or only in consumption stocks, when you're binding fund manager in any form, you are, doing harm to yourself. Why do you bind the fund manager? You go to a mid cap scheme, for example, fund manager is investing in 60 stocks. He has spread that money in 15, 20 different sectors and industries. And whenever he feels that this particular industry will not do well, he will take out those 2-3 stocks from that industry and put in something else. So he has got that flexibility to maneuver around, right? And that's what generates the returns. The moment you bind them, I mean, they're ready to get bind because they're getting their money. I mean, they're again in the business of selling the mutual fund schemes. But yeah, they do not add value at all. It's just a fancy category in your portfolio. You feel good that I've done something different. Everyone wants to do something different, and that's what they are, taking advantage of. I call the other basic schemes as dal roti schemes. I have given a name, dal roti schemes, in my program. I tell them they take a pure large cap, pure mid cap, and pure small cap. That's what is good for your, dal roti is good for your health, and these schemes are good for your financial health. Anything else you are doing is all, zazzy and fancy. Doesn't help.
Bilkul. And I also wish to ask you your, I'd say, viewpoint on small case. Now, I think small case का जो, let's say, trend शुरू हुआ है, and I do think कि, yeah, they do add some sort of value, and they're an alternative to mutual funds, right? So I just want to understand पहले तो what differentiates two of them on like perspective, like किस mindset से should you view it, and also can they actually replace your portfolio में mutual fund का place when it comes to, let's say, overall wealth creation possibilities?
See, whatever I have explored for small case, one thing I've noticed is its number of stocks is very less. It's not like 50, 60, 70 stocks, right? And I think small case began with the objective of making stock investing convenient. That's how I look at it. So let's say I'm investing into mutual funds. So I can put an SIP. Automatically, the money will go out from my savings account, and the investment will be done in the appropriate place. But if I'm investing in a portfolio of 10, 20 stocks, I have to open my app or my laptop and manually do it, every month or every week or whenever I want to do it. Small case is solving that problem because you can, allocate the stocks, the percentage, and you can just click and, the money goes in the same proportion. So it is more of a convenience tool for people who are investing in direct stocks, right? It is not really, you can't really compare mutual funds and small case. Rather, you can compare your stocks portfolio and small case in terms of convenience. Okay. Other than that, mutual fund has 50, 60, 70 stocks. This one has got 10, 15, 20 stocks. There is no comparison as such. I mean, there are two different products. And again, same thing is happening in small case. All those fancy categories, you have like all kinds of possibilities. It's like permutation combination. Jitna bana sakte ho, utna banao. The more permutation combination you have, the more you will be able to sell. Because every investor will have different view and they will buy something or anything from you.
So I think जो आपका पूरा अभी तक theme रहा है, I can make out of it कि the more complexity do you add to your portfolio, either buying some fancy names or maybe going through the small case route, not necessarily bad per se, but only adding complexities, making your life as an investor harder. Compared to vanilla mutual fund, एक large cap, small cap, mid cap, जो आपके लिए convenient होना चाहिए, and they do something exact opposite. Sir, we cannot talk about, let's say, mutual fund and not talk about debt mutual funds, right? Equity mutual fund है, but debt also plays a decent role. Now I am 20, मैं अब 20 का हो जाऊंगा. मेरे को पता है कि like मुझे अभी debt की जरूरत नहीं है. I have 20, 30, 40 years of pure compounding, and it makes sense for me to just invest in equity. How do you approach कि debt mutual fund में कैसे invest करना चाहिए, and how safe is it? Because जब ये फ्रैंकलिन टेम्पल्टन का डिफॉल्ट हुआ, आई वोंट से डिफॉल्ट, बट जो ये पूरा केस हुआ, इस वजह से काफी ज्यादा, लेट्स से, घबराहट भी आ गई है इन्वेस्टर्स में, एंड दैट्स व्हाई दे प्रेफर अपन लोग एफडीज में ही कर लेते हैं, वहां पे बैंक का ट्रस्ट तो है, कंपेयर टू, लेट्स से, अ फॉरेन म्यूचुअल फंड स्कीम जो पता नहीं कब बंद हो जाए कब नहीं. सो हाउ डू यू व्यू इट?
I'll answer the Franklin thing first. See, first look at the frequency of such incidents. We tend to, overhype the negative thing a lot. I mean, I understand the people who have their money there, they really, went through that pain. Plus, please understand, you will not put everything in your debt allocation to Franklin. And if you have done that, your first step was only wrong. Right? So let's say you had 20% of your total assets into debt and everything was into Franklin. That's extremely rare case scenario. And if that is happening, you should first look at your other portfolio also. Equity में भी यही गलती कर रहे हो शायद. So first of all, you should have diversified, right? And if I have diversified, if I have within debt schemes also, I will not care much कि ठीक है हो गया so हो गया. I have to take it in my stride. I mean, these things will keep happening. I mean, that will not make me not fulfill my financial goals. If something can be fulfilled through equity or debt, I'll do that, irrespective of what is happening. So that should not be taken with so seriously, right? Now, coming to you said you pay 20, and how you should take debt and why should you even invest in debt. This notion of debt and equity related to age is a big misconception, and it's a wrong direction in my opinion. Why? See, equity market, whether it's direct stocks or equity mutual fund, is meant for long-term investing. 5 year plus is what I say, right? If you're investing in equity for your next, you need money after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, even 4 year, and you're investing in equity market, you are gambling. You are a gambler, you're not an investor. So nothing wrong in gambling. I mean, it's a choice, it's your life, but you should know that you are a gambler, not an investor. Don't say that I'm an investor. Say I'm a gambler. Be proud. Yeah. So equity is meant for 5 year plus, right? Debt is meant for any goals which is within 5 year, and plus your exigencies and emergency fund, right? Now, whether you are 20 or 30 or 70 or 80, life is uncertain for everyone. So you should always have some portion in debt. Why? Let's say you started investing only in equity, saying that I am young, I need money for next 10, 20, 30 years. And March 2020 came and you need money for something really urgent in your family or for your personal use, for your business or whatever. And the market is down 30, 40%, and then you go and sell your equity. That's when the debt would have helped you. That cushion, it would have given that cushion to you. So that's one place how debt helps. Second, how much should you allocate to debt and equity? Again, people relate to age. There is a very standard formula going in the market. 100 minus age is equal to equity. So you're 20 years old, 100 minus 20, 80% should be in equity, 20% should be in debt. Again, I say it should be as per your goals. Let's say I'm 30-year-old and I am planning to buy a house 2 years down the line, for which I need 40 lakhs down payment. I will not put my fresh investments into equity. Why? Because I want to pay that 40 lakh rupees 2 years down the line. Right? So being 30-year-old, my 60, 70, 80% of investments can be in debt. Now, if you look at the theory, it will say you are a fool, 30-year-old and you're investing in 80% debt. You will never, grow in your financial life. But look at my financial goal, which is coming up, right? I don't want to risk it to equity market for 2 years because it's a gamble. Right? At the same time, there's someone who is 70-year-old, retired, children are married off, well settled. There's no loan, no EMI, no credit card, nothing, right? And I have, enough investments in terms of my retirement life. I can invest 80-90% in equity. Why not? 10 to 20% of debt is enough to fulfill my monthly needs for next 5 years, for example. And the remaining 80% can go in equity because I know 5 year plus it will give me very good returns, much twice or thrice what debt will give me after tax. So it's not related to age. 70-year-old guy can have 80% debt and 30-year-old guy can have 80% in debt. It depends on your financial goal. That's all. I mean, there's no point, asking. People always ask me this question. It's a standard question across all my sessions and programs, that how much should I put in debt and equity? I say there is no standard answer. If you run behind standard answer, you will do more harm. It will do more harm to you than benefit. So make your financial plan, do your financial planning, and then figure out how much you would need to invest where.
I think it's clearly evident कि genuinely आपसे काफी लोगों ने पूछा है, which is why you have the most structured answer anybody has ever given me with respect to this. So hats off to that totally. Now, sir, I have few FAQs and these are questions that I've received from my audience. So अब हम जल्दी you don't really have to spend a lot of time, 10 seconds,
Sure,
1 minute, jitna time lena, and we'll try covering most of them, right? First
sure,
is,
sure.
how do you use SIPs, STPs, and SWPs properly for your whole mutual fund portfolio? So you can do, like, you can just explain these terms thoda sa, and then how can we smartly use these different, I'd say, workings of mutual fund to your benefit in your portfolio?
So SIP is the most common tool which people know, a systematic investment plan. Every month, let's say I'm investing 20,000 rupees. So from my savings account, 20,000 will go to various mutual fund schemes, right? That's called SIP, right? Let's say now I've got 5 lakh rupees or 1 lakh, 10 lakh rupees, whatever a lump sum amount to invest. One way is I continue my SIP in my savings account, the money is lying down and my investment is going. The other way is to take out that money from savings account, put that in a debt mutual fund. There are various kinds of debt mutual fund schemes. One of them is liquid fund. Put that money in liquid fund, and from there the SIP will go. Now that is called systematic transfer plan. The name changes. Technically, every month the money is going out, but instead of going out from savings account, it is going out from the liquid fund. Right now, what's the purpose of this? When you have money lying down in your savings account, you will find genuine reasons to spend it. वो जब दिखता है ना अकाउंट में पैसा, यार ये खरीद लेते हैं, वो खरीद लेते हैं, you can end up buying things which are frivolous, which is like not really required, right? Out of sight, out of mind. You take out the money and put it in the liquid fund, it's kind of invested, right? And the returns in liquid fund is slightly more than the savings account, so that's double benefit. One, you will not spend that money, you really wanted to invest it, and you will actually invest it, and you will get a little higher returns instead of keeping it in your savings account. So that's STP. SWP is just the opposite of SIP, systematic withdrawal plan, right? So if I want to sell a scheme in my portfolio which has got, let's say, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees of investment value today, instead of taking out at once, I can, give instructions to the fund house ki withdraw it over next 12 months, divide by 12 equal parts, withdraw it in next 12 months, and that's called systematic withdrawal plan. Typically, the significance of systematic withdrawal plan is from taxation purpose. So there's something called short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain. To save yourself from short-term capital gain tax, you can do an SWP so that you fall into, now this is a long explanation. I may not be able to explain without a presentation, but this helps you in tax saving and helps you in saving the exit load. There's something called exit load in mutual fund schemes. Achha. If you exit a mutual fund scheme within 1 year of investment, they charge you 1% charge. Beyond 1 year, it is 0%. So I'm doing an SIP in a mutual fund scheme for last 1 year. And if I sell it today altogether, I will pay 1% to the mutual fund company and my tax will also be high. Instead of that, I'll do an SWP for next 12 months. So I will save on my tax also and I will save on my exit load also. So that's how the SWP will help.
Okay. So, sir, STP, I had a query, right? So when I was also reading about STP, this is the exact thing that I read, and I found this very, I'd say, unique and very smart thing to do as an investor. But sir, ये मुझे एक drawback मिला था. I don't know whether I'm right or not. कि when you're doing an STP, आप STP एक AMC के debt fund से उसी AMC के equity mutual fund में ही कर सकते हो. Is this right or is this not? And let's say if I want to do it cross, मेरा debt mutual fund, let's say आदित्य बिरला वाली scheme में है, but मुझे अपना equity access वाले में करना है. Can I do this via STP or is there any other way for me to do it?
No, you cannot. You were right. The first point was right. You have to do it from the same fund house. But that's not, I mean, in what sense are you saying it's a drawback? How does it matter? Because that money is just lying on in the liquid fund, which is as safe as any other liquid fund.
नहीं, मुझे बस ये था कन्वीनियंस होती है कि एसटीपी में ऑटोमेटिकली खुद ब खुद कटते जा रहा है. बिकॉज अभी अगर मुझे बिरला से एक्सेस में डालना है, मुझे वहां पे रिडेम्पशन रिक्वेस्ट डालनी पड़ेगी एंड देन उस अमाउंट को डायरेक्ट करना पड़ेगा. सो वो थोड़ा इनकन्वीनियंट हो जाता है, बट देन अगेन क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है. इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ, ठीक है सर.
It's a one-time task, right?
Yeah. Next question is tax treatment of mutual funds. Give me a couple of छोटे-छोटे points which I must keep in mind while maximizing or rather minimizing my tax obligation and making it most tax efficient equity mutual fund portfolio for me.
Sure. So taxation is pretty simple in India. If you invest in mutual fund for 1 year, less than 1 year, let's say you buy a scheme, some units today and you sell with it before 365 days, whatever profit you make, if you make profit, whatever profit you make, you pay 15% tax, 15, right? So let's say you bought mutual funds worth 10 lakh rupees, you sold it for 12 lakh rupees within 1 year, 2 lakhs ka profit hua, 15% of that is 30,000 rupees. 30,000 rupees tax will go when you file the income tax returns, right? The AMC will not cut it. You will get the entire 2 lakhs in your bank account, but you have to, voluntarily go and pay when you're filing your income tax. if you do the same thing after 1 year, after 365 days, first 1 lakh rupees is free from tax. So the same example, 10 lakh becomes 12 lakhs. I sell it after 1 year, let's say 366th day, right? So first 1 lakh rupees, there is no tax. The next 1 lakh rupees, I have to pay 10% tax. That is 10,000 rupees. So total 2 lakhs ke profit ke upar I pay 10%, 10,000 rupees as tax. In the earlier case, I was paying 30,000 rupees as tax, right? So that's short-term capital gain, STCG, and long-term capital gain, LTCG. That's a very commonly term, these initials which people use. The third tax which you have to be careful about is dividend tax. So if there are different kinds of mutual fund schemes. Within every scheme, there you have an option of growth plan and dividend plan. So if you want regular income, you can choose a dividend plan. The same scheme will take out money from the scheme and give you some in the form of dividend. Now that dividend is taxed as per your income tax slab. So if you're in 30% tax slab, you will pay 30% tax on dividend. If you are in 0% tax slab, you will not pay any tax. So depending on your tax slab, you have to figure out whether it's useful for you or not. But you should be aware that dividend will be taxable. Yeah. Okay. So broadly, these are the three things you should keep in mind.
Fine. And finally, the last question: what should be the ideal number of mutual fund schemes in my portfolio for, let's say, a guy like me who's in his 20s?
So this again, so whether you are 20 or 80, then the ideal number of schemes should be 3 to 4.
Okay. And
total.
Large, mid, small, and an ELSS or a debt, like.
So this is for pure equity. ELSS is different because ELSS is for a different purpose. So I'm excluding ELSS from this. Okay. I'm excluding debt from this. So debt again is from different purpose. I'm saying you have an equity mutual fund portfolio for your various financial goals. So that should not have more than 3 to 4 active schemes. Active scheme means in which you are doing SIP actively, and you can have maybe 1 or 2 schemes on hold. So you are not buying anything new, but whatever you have bought, it is already there. So let's say 4 to 6 schemes in total, including 3 to 4 schemes in active category and 2 to 3 schemes in hold category, not more than that. And this is irrespective of your portfolio size. Because what people do is, abhi main 5 lakh laga raha hu, now my portfolio is 15 lakhs. Now I should have more schemes, then 50 lakhs, more schemes, 1 crore more schemes. I know people with 20, 25 schemes because they think it's required because my portfolio size is big. They end up making below index fund returns. So it's worthless.
Finally, so second last question for you is, what does anupamrungta.com brand look like in 2025? What plans do you have aage, and how do you think you'll progress? And what's your step-by-step abhi ke liye vision for now?
This reminds me of the interviews which I gave. That was a very typical question. Ki 5 months, where will you be 5 years down the line? And I think I never had an answer to that. I really don't think so I have an answer to that. But what I look at when I take my next step is that where is the gap in the service to the investor as on today? Where is that gap which I can fill up? For example, the mutual fund program which I did, I am not aware of anyone doing a live program of mutual funds. And I don't know anyone doing a program in which the shortlisting happens live in the program. So there are various courses available. They are all good. I have also taken the courses to understand how they are, what kind of value they're giving. But they end up telling what the parameters are. They end up explaining it very well. But the implementation part is not really there available. So that's where I fill the gap. The same thing I did in stock market program. The same thing I'll do in financial planning and debt mutual fund. So I don't know how it will shape up because I'm doing things which do not exist right now, or which my investors are asking me for. For example, debt mutual fund and financial planning is something which was not there in my plan, but it is now there because every second participant is saying, please come up with debt mutual fund. I really want to learn and I want to invest. Please come up with financial planning. I really want to do my financial planning. And I know it's very important. I didn't know that there is so much of gap in terms of people not doing financial planning. So I'll just keep on filling that gap wherever possible. And there are no numbers or targets as such for 25 or 30 or anything like that. So let it just flow the way it is flowing.
I think it's much better to go with the flow rather than having a proper plan, because when plans do not meet, thoda sa dukh hota hai, and then you bound yourself कि plan के हिसाब से ही चलना है. And so far your life has been so smooth. I wouldn't say smooth, but plan के हिसाब से आप नहीं चल रहे थे. You were just going with the flow, and you are at this stage जहाँ पे you are well settled, financially free, helping a lot of people, which is insanely awesome. Final question here I have: one best advice you received in your life and one worst advice you received in your life.
Best advice, I've shared this with a lot of people in the session. So I started investing from my first paycheck, and
Mhm.
that advice came from my father. So it was a very interesting conversation. I was in my first job in Gurgaon, and just before the salary was about to come, and I already had my plans how to spend that money when it come. My father called, and the rest was history. So all my plans were like reversed, and he didn't. I mean, he was very candid in terms of he's asking me what are your plans and how you plan to invest and all. So I said I'll invest at the end of the month. Whatever is left, I will invest everything. So he's like, if that's your plan, you will not be able to invest for next 7 to 8 years. That's my guarantee. So I like, why are you saying that? He's like, you will not be left with anything by the end of the month, no matter how economic you are, no matter how much care you take. So the best is you get your salary on first, second, third of the month, whatever the date is. Within next day itself, you invest the money, whatever the smallest amount is. Invest as low as you can. Don't go with a very high number. So it's like earning minus investment is equal to
Expenses.
expenses instead of earning minus expenses. So I think that worked wonders because within 6 months I realized that had my father not called me, and now he would have called me after 6 months or 1 year, I would have not been able to save because I would have got into that habit of not saving and spending that money. So that habit is building is what was the best advice, and that is helping me till date, and that's what had set me financially free. What's the worst advice? I have to really think. I mean, when you get an advice, you think it's a good advice or it might not be a very good advice, but worst advice, I think can't really recall any worst advices. I mean, no one will really misguide you as such, but yeah, I think you do learn from your own mistakes rather than other people's guidance. It's more about
बिल्कुल.
your taking responsibility and making sure that you don't make those mistakes again.
And again, like one last question: two investing books that you recommend to everybody, and two non-investing books that you recommend to anybody to lead a more fulfilling and a more prosperous life.
Okay, so investing books are very difficult to pick. There are like so many of them, but yeah, for someone who is new to the industry altogether. So it's a very, I mean, I think most recommended book is Rich Dad Poor Dad because that gives you a overall mindset and direction of how to think about money. And once you're done with that, if you're interested in stocks and all, then again there are. I mean, this is where the tough part is because there are so many good books. But the one I like the most is The Intelligent Investor because I think that's a bible of stock investing. You can, I mean, after reading that book, whichever book you read, you'll like, okay, I know this because you've read this you've got this foundation so strong by reading that one
Okay.
book. So these are two investing books. Non-investing book, there's one book which I have, I think, gifted the most in my life. That's called The Go Giver.
Okay.
So you might have heard people saying he's a go-getter. In sales, a lot of these, this term is go get it, go getter, right? So this book talks about being a go-giver, so that they, change your perspective altogether in terms of how giving will get you what you want instead of latching on to things. You look at how can you contribute and give to people around you, not about society, not about donation and all. They're talking about
Mhm.
giving in all aspects of life, be it professional or financial or personal, whatever it is. So that's one book. Another non-finance book. Okay, there are quite a few I have read, which is a recent one. Really think of it. Actually, I have mentioned. Yeah, there's one book called "Who Moved My Cheese." I read it
Okay.
very very long back. So that I mean I don't even remember what exactly were the points there, but I remember that one book made a lot of impact on me in terms of, and I got interested into reading those kind of books. So these are the two books which you can pick and start reading.
I think you not just read books but also apply. This clearly comes from the fact that you genuinely are a giver. You're giving a lot to your clients, to people around you, people on LinkedIn, and people like me who wish to learn from you. So thank you for that. Thank you again for your time. Now I'd like to give you the opportunity to hand off where the audience can learn about you and how can they contact you.
My address is my website. That's anupamrumta.com, and they can go there and go to the contact us page. They can leave a message there, and their email ID is also mentioned there. So that's the best way to contact us if you really want to get in touch. If you want us to reply to any query of yours, uh, yeah. So I think that is, I would not give 2-3 options, because that message will reach us and we will be able to reply. There are people who reach us through LinkedIn and Facebook and other, and those messages get delayed in terms of our response.
Okay.
So I think the website is the best way to do it.
So I'll make sure I'll put the link to your anupamrumta.com website down below. Also links to your respective programs that you're running and your flagship Follow My Portfolio. So if you're still watching the video, thank you for watching the video, Abhitak. Go check out what sir is doing. It's insane. And thank you again, sir, for your time. Much appreciated.
Sure. Thank you, Kashish, for making this effort and for inviting me, and all the best to you for your venture.
Thank you, sir.